Welcome to the show. That was, of course, Garth Brooks with People Loving People from his latest album, Man Against Machine. I'm Patrick Kielty, and I am delighted to say that we're in Boston to meet a man who is the biggest selling solo artist in US history. He is a man who is on course to notch up the highest grossing concert tour of all time. And most importantly, he is a man, before I left London, who is an actual clue in the Times crossword. Garth, you've made it.
That's when you know, right there.
That's when you know. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming over. Hope you're enjoying the trip.
We enjoyed the trip, and we got to start with the show. I mean, last night we saw the show. So you got off stage. This is what? This is show number
3.
Number 3. You're playing 6 shows here in Boston.
Right.
You came off stage last night at, I counted it at 27 minutes to 2 a.m.
Yeah, I love it. I'm sitting there. They give me a clock here in Boston because they have a mass transit that shuts down. You have to be out at certain times. And this crowd is louder than it was when it began at 1:30 in the morning. I don't know what to do with them, but they were fantastic.
How many days do you think you can keep this up?
Till I drop dead. I tell you, man, my wife is rolling her eyes right now somewhere, but she said, I just told her, I said, I want to do this till I'm tired. And I don't know, man. I spent the last 14 years sitting on my butt. I'm happy to be employed again, and I'm happy to be playing music.
You're ready to go?
I am, man. This is fun. And you know, every night is like that. So that's, you get addicted to that. That's fun.
There's a couple of things about the show that I noticed straight away. First of all, I've never seen showmanship like it. And I've never seen a lack of vanity like it. There's huge showmanship in the show, but no vanity.
Oh, that's sweet.
There's absolutely no image. You're there, and it's a completely open show.
I'm part of a band, man. And then when you add people to it, I'm part of an arena. And I don't think you're the piece. I just think you're parts of it. Because, you know, there's not a player out there that you can go interview that we haven't done a show without. There's not even the drummer. His wife was delivering a baby the night of the show. We went without a drummer, and the crowd, they don't care. I'm 100% convinced if Garth doesn't show up, I don't care. You know, I got all the pictures and things from Ireland when we didn't get to do shows over there. They were having a great time. You know, they just had the music going, and they were having a great time. So I think it's all about the music. I really do. And I think if you focus more on that and less about the artist, then I think you probably draw a good picture of what a Garth Brooks show is.
I think one of the other things about it that for me was you got the music, you got the band, you own the show, but it feels like the audience also owns the songs.
Yeah.
Every moment that you actually put those songs out there was little moments where you were cutting the crowd up, and they feel like they own the songs.
Man, there's something that's going on here that we started mentioning maybe, I guess we started mentioning at the first show. They have made every song, no matter which one you play out there, they've made me believe that's their favorite one. And that's a crazy feeling, because as an artist, you're lucky if you've got one song. You start over a career. But these people just make you feel like every song you're doing is the song that they drove here for.
The song that I drove here for, I was, you know, and the thing about your show is that you can come, it doesn't matter what your favorite song is going to be, it's there. So if you don't mind, as a fan, we're going to play my favorite song now, which is Two of a Kind.
Oh, great. Every time we go in to look for a new record, we go to the publishers. And the one question I get everything is, are you going to cut another like Two of a Kind, that kind of thing? And the weird thing is, I haven't found one since. It's a pretty simple song, straight ahead beat, but to find something that even mirrors it is weird. But I just love that song. I think it's timeless.
Is it true that The Dance wasn't going to be released as a single? And then whenever you played it live, then you told the bosses, hey, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, the real story on The Dance was I brought it in from Tony Arata, and then the longer we waited to cut it, the more scared I got that it wasn't country enough. Alan Reynolds, for the first time, pulls me over and goes,
now, this is Alan, your producer, who's been doing everything with you for years.
Yes, long-time mentor, like a second father to me. He says, if you don't cut The Dance, it'll be the biggest hit you never had. So then we put The Dance out. And we do. We put it on the record. So here comes Much Too Young, If Tomorrow Never Comes, Not Counting You, and at this point in Not Counting You, Jimmy Bowen takes over Capitol Records. Here's Jimmy Bowen.
Hi, Jimmy. There's Jimmy Bowen leaving Capitol Records. It didn't last long for Jimmy.
Right in the middle of Not Counting You, Jimmy Bowen takes over Capitol Records. We already have in the can an album called No Fences. And he goes, for the summer, Friends in Low Places, deliver it. And it was Alan Reynolds again that went into him to say, hey, look, there's one more song on this album that I think will bring this artist his own light. Not meaning he's above or anybody, but they'll look at him in his own light. And it's the dance. And Bowen, wanting to be a team player because he's a new guy, said, I'll follow your lead. We released the dance. After the dance came Friends in Low Places. And that combo, those two right there, I think is what defined Garth Brooks and would, I guess, even as close as last night, still defines.
It really does. Let's hear it now. Whenever I look at the audience last night, it's a mainstream audience.
Thank you.
You know, I'm looking at that audience, and if I saw them walking down the street, I couldn't tell whether they're country, I couldn't tell what they listen to. And in a way, I think that audience almost reflects your taste in music and the influences. And if you look at their record collection, I think it could be close to maybe yours.
So it's a good question. Maybe let's go outside of music for 2 seconds to talk about love. I think that's what our music kind of promotes, just to love one another, kind of thing, no matter what it is. And I think it's fun music, so I think it's got a good beat to it, and it brings joy. And when I look out there in those faces, I'm like you. I see old, I see young, I see white, I see black, I see same-sex, I see hetero, whatever the cool words are for all that stuff. But I don't see a constant boxed-in fan. And I think that's got a lot to do with just about love and respect to one another, and know that they come here, they're in a love fest, a safe place where they come in and just have a good time.
And it's one of those places, I think, whenever you come to one of your concerts, it's a place where, you know, men come with their girls, you know, girls come with their guys. A man can have a little weep. I'm happy to admit, you know, there might have been a little tear in the eye myself last night. I was on my own, and you know, I had a little weep. And there's just something there's a magic, there's an openness that you seem to be able to create.
I don't know, again, I think it's the music, but when we're talking about guys, let's hit on that. This is a dude fest. When did this happen? Last tour, man, it was girls, girls, girls. Now it's like, it's easily 50-50, if not more guys than girls. I'm looking at it and go, what happened? I don't have a clue what happened, but man, they're loud, and they're having fun, and they are singing their butts off.
One of the songs that they sang the loudest with last night, Shameless, Billy Joel. And you actually were on stage with him. You sang that at Shea Stadium, is that right?
Yes, sure did. Sang it with Shea Stadium. I got to sing it in Central Park.
What's the story behind that? Where does Billy come in your musical taste?
Well, Billy Joel was introduced to me by, there's the two last kids. I'm the baby, and then Kelly is the next oldest. Me and Kelly were inseparable. And he turned me on to Billy Joel's Glass Houses. He was in college. I was in high school. And fell in love with it, and you start exploring all this stuff, especially Songs in the Attic, Miami 2017. If you're going to do a live show, Miami 2017, that's like the anthem. And then I got to see back then on VHS, I got to see Billy Joel live in Long Island. And if you'll notice, our stages ever since the day one has been to play in that full round circle, that low flat raising the back. That's all Billy Joel stuff. So he's been a huge influence on my music, on a live show, and just really enjoy everything that he brings to me as an influence.
Shall we play Shameless by Billy, or will we...
Oh, well, if you want my opinion, the greatest cut's Billy Joel's Shameless. Sure, if I'm choosing, I'd pick that every time.
I'm Patrick Kielty here on Radio 2 Country with the one, the only Mr. Garth Brooks. How close were you to being a ball player instead of a music star?
If you ask athletes, I was a long way from being an athlete. If you ask me, I so wanted to so bad. And but, you know, you end up going where your path is. And I got to tell you, what I love about this over sports, there's a billion things I love about this over sports. Sports, you're done by the time you're 25 or 26 if you're lucky. Sports, you go into an arena and you're lucky if half the people are for you and half the people are against you. They don't travel worth crap. All their travel's like rickety buses and these big planes. They don't have this posh stuff. And they gotta go out and they gotta work for a living. I get to go out and eat ice cream for a living, so I'm kind of glad I picked this gig.
Is there ever a point when you actually look out in the stadium that you're playing, musically, and you think, oh, I just want to hit a home run in this stadium instead?
No, not at all, man. I was lucky enough with Teammates for Kids with launching that charity to get to play professional baseball, and I got to tell you, man, those guys work. They work their butts off, and they've dedicated their whole life to it. And I like looking around and seeing guys who've dedicated their whole life to playing the drums, playing the fiddle, and seeing how that affects people.
When you play sport at an early age, and I did, there's a sports attitude, I think, which you carry with you into your life. And I think when I look at you, I could be right, I could be wrong. I think you've got a thing which is life's about winning, life's about losing, but it's also about how you play the game.
Yeah, it's very much about competing within yourself. That's the thing. I mean, you know, what I love about music and the industry is there's two ways to go about it, competing. One is, I'm going to take the guy out on my right over here, and I'm going to take the guy out here on my left. I don't like that approach. I think what we do is you have your piece of pie, whatever percentage that is, then your job as an artist is to make that format bigger.
There's enough food to go around.
Amen. And it's great to have all these different influences because you can't hit everybody. There's no way you can. Your music's not going to appeal to everybody. But you got Tim McGraw on your right. You've got Jason Aldean on your left. You got Miranda Lambert. You got all these people. And what is the music for? Music's for the listener. So why do we want to be the only artist on the planet? Because you're not going to get them. You want that artist to have all those influences. We can line up our influences. You can line up yours. And I bet you 10 to 1, they're not going to be identical.
No, they're not. But the brilliant thing about your influence is, if you look at a lot of the songs, you know, the dance, standing outside the fire, there's this message about life which is, you know, we're here once, we're here for a short time. You got to go grab it.
Yeah. And you got to love one another, man. When, you know, the great mystery, why are we down here? I don't think it's that hard. We're down here for each other. That's why we're here. If you're down here for yourself, it's going to be cold and miserable, man. We got to love one another. And that's what I love to hear in the music.
I like the fact that you're using the cold and miserable analogy as you sit there with the scarf and the huge coat on.
Man, the thing is, when you play these gigs, especially, you know, we're in Boston, so it's damp, it's snowy, it's cold, and you're trying to wrap up as much as you can, but man, you're sweating your butt off during the shows, which is great. Crowds are fantastic.
Okay, we'll take Standing Outside the Fire now, if you don't mind, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about Oklahoma and growing up and stuff like that. Okay, so when you're growing up in Oklahoma, you're listening to a lot of different music. James Taylor, of course, was a particular favourite.
Yes.
Was there ever a point where you thought, country isn't where I want to go, and maybe I want to be the guitar man, maybe I want to be the piano man instead?
Oh, my country music was my dad's music, wasn't mine. So, but it was all over the house. Haggard Jones, you couldn't get away from it. Buck Owens, Tammy Wynette, Charlie Pride. The list goes on and on. Then the older brothers brought in things more like a folk rock kind of feel in the late 60s. Janis Joplin, Janis Ian, Rita Coolidge, and here comes James Taylor. Here comes the Eagles, which kind of oddly enough, if they came out today, would be country, real country. The same way with James Taylor. And then here comes my brother Kelly with the rock bands of the 70s. So here comes ELO. Here comes Foreigner, Styx, Kansas, Queen, Kiss. All these groups, because we had an oil boom hit Oklahoma about the mid-'70s, and all these kids from Michigan, Wisconsin all came down, and they brought with them these bands that we weren't hearing down there. And I tell you what, it was quite an eye-opener.
So whenever you see a band like Queen or a band like Kiss, is that something that you take with you in terms of performance, or was it just about the music? Did you just like the tunes? Did you like the front man? We find it weird that a country guy from Oklahoma, loves Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury is the ultimate entertainer, first of all, the ultimate showman. I'm 17. My high school sweetheart, Tammy Sherman, surprises me with tickets to Queen. I'm sitting on the 13th row, not sitting, standing in my chair. And is it Brian May? He comes out and he's playing this guitar, and this piece of lighting structure comes down and starts battling him. How does this sound familiar to you?
I don't think I've seen that in the last 24 hours.
I'm sitting there watching it going, if I ever get to do this for a living, I want to do that. And so that's how much of an influence these guys are. They, also the drummer for Queen. God love him. He had the largest toms. He was the first guy I think that ever took floor toms and used them as regular toms.
Roger Taylor.
And that stuff right there just screams muscle. It screams, You know, it's Karen Rochelle. Whenever you talk to her about music, you talk to her about approach. And she goes, oh, I get it. Instead of coming in riding a bicycle, you come in riding a Harley.
I like that.
That's what that approach is with those drums, man. Here it is. This is what I believe. Take it, because you ain't going to be able to avoid it. And I love that attitude.
Okay, if we're going to play one Queen tune for you today, what would that be?
Oh, God, there's so many great ones. Probably take your pick. I mean, even the Flash Gordon thing was fantastic. I love that.
Is it true that your mum could have made it as a country star?
Yeah, very true.
How good was she?
She was great. Fantastic. She recorded for Kmark and Cardinal, and then went out to L.A. to record for Capitol in Studio B. And she was just phenomenal. But my mom already had 2 or 3 kids, and she knew she needed to take care of those kids. Then she got married to Dad. Another child came with Dad, and then they had 2 between them. So there was 6 of us total. And Mom traded her dream for 6 souls. And so it was always cool. When you got to do this, you always felt like maybe, just maybe, you were finishing a race that your mom started.
That's very cool.
So I love. Anytime she wanted to come, I couldn't see her enough, because if anybody appreciated it more than even myself, it was my mom.
So your mum could have been the star, and she made the sacrifices. Your dad was an ex-Marine.
Yes.
And I think there's very much an attitude that I think he instilled in you, which was, you got to do the right thing. You got to be the best that you can be.
Well, you know, it's funny. You keep talking about the little man inside. And he can say, you can get in a room, bud, and it can be as loud as you want. It ain't going to drown out the little man inside. So when he's telling you you're doing wrong, it ain't ever going to go away till you make it right. And I love him and absolutely hate him for that, because it is, man. It stares at you. We had a poster called, we had a little saying called Man in the Glass. I think it's the author unknown. And my dad was a draftsman, so he was great at calligraphy. And he did it in his own hand, put it there, and that hung in our children's bedroom, my 3 girls' bedroom, there, because if the man in the glass says you're a good guy, then you are. If everybody else says you are and the man in the glass says you aren't, you're not.
Would it be fair to say that your mum gave you the talent, gave you the dream, your dad gave you the attitude to go and fetch it?
It's a perfect mix, because my dad, don't fool him, my dad taught me how to play guitar. He could play dobro, he could do it all. My dad was one of those guys that whatever he set his mind to do. We come up on an old driver and some old golf balls on this farm in Nashville. And my dad's not a golf guy, no way. I said, Dad, let's hit some off the hill into the woods. Watching him swing a club, this guy's an athlete. Everything he did, played football, baseball, whatever, he was an athlete. So Dad was good at everything he did, which music was going to be one of those things. So kind of to sum it up, Mom believed she could fly, and Dad would pull you over and say, boy, if you're going to fly, it's going to take a lot of work. And those 2 things, I think, what made every one of us kids.
So how many records did your mum cut then?
She's probably got about 6 or 8 songs. Some of them she wrote herself, so pretty cool.
Okay, can we play one of them now?
You betcha. Greatest gift you can have, if you always have your mom. No matter how long she's been gone, you put a record on, you hear her voice again. It's like holding her tight, man. It's great.
Strum of guitars 'neath the Alamo star, strains of the blue bonnet waltz. I love that tune 'neath the old Texas moon, dancing the blue bonnet waltz. Stars as we sway seem to whisper and say, don't let the music pause. I'll hold you tight, you're mine for tonight, dancing the blue bonnet waltz. 1, 2, 3, round and round we go. Now to the left, then right. I'll say that the night will never end. Darling, forgive my faults. Eyes are bluer, hearts are truer, troubles fewer, dear. Dancing the blue bonnet waltz.
A lot of talk about why you retired. You lost your mum, before you retired, and in a way, you've spoken about her giving up her dreams so that you guys could go and follow yours. Was there a point where you thought, I've now got my dream, and I'm now going to have to go back and look after my family?
I just think it was once they handed me Taylor, 1992, it started.
Who's named after James Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my oldest baby, it started as like, dang it. But I know when they're young, and to bring them out, all the check marks were there. But as they start getting older, and the first time I heard my daughter say a word, the simple word was both. But she pronounced it both, like a B-O-L-T-H.
Like babies do.
Well, like her nannies did. Someone else was raising my children. It was time.
And that was the point.
Oh, and what a hell of a time it was, too, because, man, you talk about all the bridges coming together and burning at the same time. Lose your mom, you retire, get a divorce. Ooh, that was I don't want to say a dark time for me because I learned so much. And it was the beginning of this happiness that I'm feeling right now. So I don't know how to describe that time other than you were going through it.
But I also think that things happen for a reason, and I think that break, for all of that trauma that you came through, I think there are certain artists that stayed in the pressure cooker who were as successful as you. If you look at someone like Elvis, if you look at someone like Michael Jackson, and they didn't take the break, and they snapped. Whereas whenever you were able to step back, there was a rebuilding that went on.
Well, I think the big difference in those names aren't anything comparable with the names. It's the format. I belong to country music. They want you to be the guy next door. They want you to take the break. They applaud you. They think you're the luckiest guy in the world if you can afford to take a break to raise your kids, and they're right. The big thing was, it's only this format that'll take you back.
Was there ever a point where you were wondering, even with your success, are they going to take me back?
I'm still wondering that right now. Shoot, yeah. Yeah, you wonder it because it's so new again. Rules have changed. A lot of things that make the industry's income we don't partake in. Streaming, iTunes, stuff like this. So when a label is looking at their bottom line, and they see Garth Brooks, and they say, well, I see the touring's going fine, but nobody sells records anymore. What are we going to do there and stuff? So they've got an interesting dilemma on their hands, and we're just going to play it out and see what happens.
I think one of the advantages that you have above anyone is that you changed music, you changed the deal for musicians. It's now got to the point where people are giving their music away in order to perform live. You have a live base because you were a live performer for it from the get-go.
Well, Bob Dole, my longtime, again, mentor, friend, manager, it sounds like you guys have been rehearsing that line. It's exactly what he says. He says the difference between successful acts and acts that are not is can they do it live? And he's 100% believer in the live thing. So that's the good thing about having a great relationship between the music and the people is the live show. Because, my wife last night, she goes, you just look like you're having the greatest time on the planet. And I tell her, honey, this is really work. Whew, this is tough. It is. It's the easiest gig I've ever had.
We're going to come on and talk about Miss Yearwood in a second. First of all, let's play a track that last night live brought the house down. Let's play Thunder Rolls.
Oh.
whenever you retired, you got together with Tricia, and she took a few years off as well. Like, what happened in the Brooks Yearhood household? Was it just, hey, we're not doing music, we're doing family? How did you scratch that musical itch when you've got two great performers in the one house?
When I describe about when people go, were you scared to retire? Were you scared to walk away? My question and my answer always is, it's kind of weird because I love music. Music's the greatest thing. But music cannot hold a candle to the love for your children. So you left one thing for something better. Well, what happened with me and Miss Sherwood was we fell in love. And our question look across the table is, do we want to be together to be apart? Didn't work in her first marriage, didn't work in mine. So we were together. So I retired, she didn't. But she pretty much cut everything off. And so to find still her purpose and her worth, self-worth, she decided to open this can of worms in this cooking thing. 2 New York Times bestsellers later,
and an Emmy.
And an Emmy and a successful, cooking show. I'm not sure which career is bigger now, her cooking show or her music career. So that just testifies that woman, anything she sets her mind on, she can get done.
Whenever you're writing a song, and you're trying to come up with a sound, and the first person that you have to play that song to is a 3-time Grammy award-winning, 15 million selling artist of a wife. Is that slightly more pressure, or
it's tough.
How does that work?
It's tough. And, you just, there's 2 ways it's going to go. 1, she's going to love it, or 2, she doesn't know everything. That's how it's going to go.
Yeah. I think you've got the rules down. Yeah.
No, trust me. We know the rules around our house.
What is it they say? Find a woman who's out of your league and convince her she isn't.
That's it. Amen.
That's the key.
Amen.
Whenever you proposed to Tricia, you did it at Bakersfield, and there was a statue that was being unveiled that day, and then there was, huge stars of
there were.
The past. You were one of those statues. Where do you see yourself in the hierarchy, and where do you see yourself in the lineage of country music?
I don't know. I'd like to be a page, but no matter how many times you read that book, I'm not going to look at my page like I look at other guys' page. Of those statues there, I was by far the smallest, and fine with being that. This band and crew, we've been together forever, and I was saying, I want to be the weakest link in this chain. Because I know if I'm the weakest link in this chain's going to do some good things, So it's kind of where I sit in this thing. I feel like I am the weak link in the chain of the country lineage, but I know how much I love country music. So if I'm the weak link, then country music's hopefully going to be okay.
I think if you're the weakest link, I think we all need to go home. Garth, thanks for taking the time. Continued success on the tour. I have no idea how you were 5 hours on stage last night. It's another 5 hours on stage tonight. We can't thank you enough. We're going to play out with this.